Season 2 of Fubar has just been released on Netflix, and after over 2 years of waiting, this action-packed borderline cringe fest, which stars the one and only Arnie, surprisingly returned. Because, honestly, I actually thought it'd get cancelled after Season 1. Do you know what? Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. This season definitely started like a cringe fest, but as it went on, it morphed into something that was far more engaging, and it had a story that actually became enjoyable to follow. With an ending that teases the idea of a Season 3, it doesn't actually look like this show is going to be heading anywhere anytime soon. So with that, let's dive into Season 2 and break down the ending. Here is a review of Fubar and the ending explained. This season was all about a potential blackout across the entirety of the United States that was being planned by criminal mastermind Dante Cress. A person that nobody knew the actual identity of, and he wanted the world to undergo this reset where 90% of the population would be killed off. Think of him like Thanos, but worse, because at least Thanos kept 50% of the people. The 4 nuclear plants around the country being destroyed were key to the plan being completed, which would cause the blackout. And upon the final one, we saw that Dante Cress's identity was actually revealed to us. It turned out that Dante Cress was actually Theodore Chips, the British lad who was posing as somebody that was working for Greta. He planned on turning out all of the power in the United States and then turning it back on so that the nuclear missiles would be set to ready to fire because they were programmed to view it as if there was a threat that caused the power to black out. And then from there, missiles would launch towards Russia, they'd retaliate, and then World War III would commence, causing millions of people to die. However, he'd be okay because he'd be tucked away in the fail-safe shelter that was buried beneath the silo. So why was he interested in Luke Broomer? Well, he knew that Greta was a double-crosser that would be willing to do anything for the right price, and he knew that he could leverage Greta's love for Luke to get them close so that he could access the secret passcode that was set up for the Y2K fears that were present at the turn of the millennium, allowing him to access the system for the nuclear weapons and then planning on launching them himself, which is what he was almost successful in doing. However, with Greta realizing that she actually wanted to be on the side of good, not evil, and her love for Luke running deep, she went up in the nuclear missile's second compartment that would break off, and she was prepared to manually shut it down, sacrificing herself. As we saw, she was successful in shutting it down, meaning that no missile left the US airspace, but she managed to survive due to the expanding foam that was used to clog up the dam earlier on, as it was impact resistant. As the missile was getting ready to break off, Emma got away from Chips, who was actually Cress, and got into the heatproof chamber, which meant that Chips was essentially incinerated and died by his own plan due to the flames of the missile. He wanted to destroy the world because he felt like it had dealt him a bad hand, and he resented the way that people acted towards each other. For example, his father and himself were once on a mission which was focused on covering up an affair that a politician was having with somebody. And during the mission, his father, who he was once so close to and idolized, actually tried to kill him, but he fought back and ended up killing his own father in response. Hence why he wanted the majority of the population wiped off the earth. He said it wasn't for country, it wasn't for crown, it was all for nothing, showing that he had no loyalty to anything or anyone but himself. All throughout this season, Emma was working towards Unit 9 in the CIA, which was the unit that was the most sought after and most difficult to get into. It required an agent to be at the top of their game, and as we saw, she was showing signs of doing it, as she wanted to match her father's legacy and be as strong and well-respected of an agent as what he was. By the time the ending came around, she got into the unit, but she declined to be a part of it. This was because she realized that the group of people that she worked closely with was what actually mattered to her. And by staying with the group that she cared about, she could balance defeating the bad guys and making the world a better place, but do it whilst being around the people that she cared about most. It connected back to what her father said to her when they allowed Greta to go free. He said how she was able to put time and effort into work and family, which is something that he could never have done. So it showed an element of progression for her because she was no longer living in her father's shadow and chasing the success that he had. Instead, she was forging her own pathway. We also saw that she and Aldon arranged to go on a dinner when he got back from transferring Tina, the double-crossing agent, over to the Russians in exchange for Great Dane in Finland. However, with us finding out that Tina was actually telling the Russians the wrong information, which showed that she was actually on the United States of America's side. It highlighted how she was, a triple agent? Meaning that Aldo, Barry, and the Great Dane now wanted to go and rescue her from Russia because they knew that they were going to kill her. With Rue being the new director, this was a mission that she had to greenlight as her first, but she was reluctant to do so, which meant that it seems like in season 3 they're going to be crossing the border into Russia to break her out of there on their own. We also saw that Luke finally retired and was going to sail around on his ship with Tally, so I wonder if that means that Arnie won't be returning for season 3, or if season 3 won't actually be returning. I suppose it wasn't that large of a mission that was on the cards for season 3, and a lot of stories did wrap up, so it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't actually see this show again. My review of season 2. Now, I'm on the fence about this show. When the first episode opened up and it was this utter cringe fest, I was skeptical about where it was going to go. However, as the episodes went on and I got more and more invested into the story, my mind changed on what I was watching. What started off as cringe turned into humour, and the likes of Chips made a great inclusion. There were genuine moments where I found myself laughing out loud at some of the jokes that were made, and I got so invested in Aldon and the pig, Hamsteak. I couldn't tell you why, but I loved that damn pig. As I was watching it through, I did kind of think to myself how this was basically just like a recycled version of The Night Agent and all of those other shows that Netflix seemed to throw their money and time at. Without Arnie, I don't reckon this season would have even got commissioned because the first was so poor. In terms of the performances in this season, I thought most of them were pretty good. However, Tally was a character that I found so pointless. She actually frustrated me when I was watching her because her delivery was so stale and it just felt like she was there to just whine and cry. She definitely had some of the cringiest lines as well. There were a lot of mirrored arcs in this season of the show, and I thought it all worked pretty well. For example, there were the opposing sides becoming lovers, which was Emma and Chips, and also Luke and Greta. And there were the two guys that were left by the women that they were still deeply in love with, which was Carter and Donnie. Seeing the mirrored storylines through the generations was an interesting approach, but I thought it worked quite well in terms of making me feel even more connected to the characters. Having both Donnie and Carter looking at the women that they feel caused their lives to go terribly wrong and end up on this boat going to 48 months of safe haven was a comedic way for their arcs to end. One part of the story that I thought didn't really need to be included was the whole part around Emma questioning her father's loyalty. This guy had been in the CIA for decades and was one of the most respected agents, retired and then came back. I just didn't buy the fact that his daughter would doubt him due to Reed putting poison in her ears, so I thought that was a bit of a silly feature. So when it comes to season 2, is Fubar worth watching? It's nowhere near as good as The Night Agent, Treason, and even Black Doves, but if you're looking for something relatively easy to watch over the weekend that's filled with Arnie Easter eggs like I'll Be Back, James Cameron, and Total Recall, this will be the show for you. It's kind of gripping. Most of the performances are strong. It's over the top in the sense that they're stopping this one guy that's about to start World War III. But sometimes you just need something so ridiculous that there's an escape from reality, right? It's an easy weekend watch or an episode a night kind of thing. I don't think you'll be blindly falling into the next episode when they finish, but I don't think it's a watch that you'll wish you never saw. So, there you have it. A review of Fubar Season 2 and the ending explained. If you're still craving your Fubar fix, which I highly doubt you are, then check the video below. There's a breakdown of Season 1 there. What did you think of this show? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.